All right, as you watch this video, you will see certain documents that I show along the line of what I have done and how I use Mandamus successfully in the past. I've done it several times. And in this video also, as you watch it, you would listen to 4 different ways and circumstance where Mandamus would apply. And I show a document as to one of the ways that it would apply. And you would hear me along this video also say that Mandamus doesn't really have a fixed template. And because it doesn't have a fixed template, due to the fact that it can be used for different circumstances, that I would not put it on the website. But it's better to show you how one way works so that you can have the general idea of how you structure it anyway. So what I have done is the cover letter that you see in this video and the actual Mandamus that I use successfully and some of the exhibits and things like that, I would actually put it on the website. As the saying goes, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. So even though Mandamus has many different circumstances it can apply to, but if you're blind as to what it actually really looks like, you wouldn't really know how to make it fit into the other circumstances. In other words, you have nothing to lose by seeing how one circumstance that did work look like. So after editing this video, I realized Mandamus is, for people who are newly introduced to it, Mandamus is simple, but might be complex to someone first listening to it. And after all this explanation in these 1 or 2 hour video that I just made, and it's going to have different parts because different parts speak of particularities. After that, it would be kind of leaving you hanging if I don't at least give you something as to what have worked, so you can at least have it there and see it word for word and how it have worked. And you can then take that template, remove the parts that don't apply, and fit yours into it. And Mandamus has different components to it, and that template that will be on the website would have all of the components along with all of the original exhibits and things like that, so you can see everything in full. Now of course I'll do my best to remove some of the personal information, but the majority of the information there is public information anyway, so I'll just do that rather than not give you anything to work with at all after the introduction of this video, because I was thinking, okay, even with the injunction, I have that on the website. It would kind of be haphazard for me to make this video on Mandamus and that's just it without anything being given to you. So I have uploaded on the website the Mandamus, the cover letter of the one that you sent to the Attorney General, the exhibits, and the other supporting affidavits and what they're called. It's called that. If you read the words in the video that you'll be looking at of the document that I used successfully at jail, it makes reference to maladministration and treason, and there's a particular name of a particular affidavit that you attach as exhibits. It's called remonstrance and affidavit of maladministration. So I don't show all that in this video, but I'll put all of that on the website. So these are the original documents that I did for it. I'm just going to take, and all I had to do, by the way, and I'm showing this particular portion just so you know, I used this document as early as last year, July, and you can see under the date of when it was last modified. This is something recent. It's not something used 5-10 years ago and something might have changed. No, this was last year. And another reason why I'm adding this extra part after editing the video, and I realized that you guys might be left hanging, is that what I did not mention in the video that you're about to watch, but I'm adding now, and I'm putting it at the beginning of each part of the video, is this. I had many different people sign it, and I had about 300 people ready to go. But by the time we got to the 21st signatory, that's when we started seeing the change. So you don't even need hundreds of people to make this work, is what I'm saying. With enough people on the patron page, if any one of you have this circumstance that you have to use Mandamus, that's everyone we need right there. God forbid you don't find yourself in a circumstance where you have to use this, but if you do, you already have the peer group and the resource, even if you don't necessarily have all the information of all the people, I have all the information. I can always email it to them and just tell them and things like that. And even if those guys on patrons don't respond or whatever, even if they did and it's not enough, I have people here that I have ready to go and stand by. Hundreds of people that can sign it for you like that. So if you find yourself in this situation where you need mandamus, God forbid you do, but nonetheless, it's an insurance. That's the reason why you need competence, so that you don't become a victim in society. You know it, so that when it does happen, you know how to react to it. It's like living in a state like Missouri where firearm laws are real lenient and almost everyone is carrying. And you find yourself in circumstances where there's firefight, right? And you don't have one, you're as screwed as it gets. So in this case, I'm giving you the firepower, and the video that I'm about to be showing you is the explanation and the tutorial of how to use that firearm. So what I did in the video before adding this part towards the beginning and deciding to add it on the website is that I gave you the instructions of how to use the weapon, but I didn't give you the weapon. And so that's what I realized, and that's why I'm adding this part. So I'll be removing some of the information that might be private from this, and it will be added on the website. Lastly, another very, very important thing that I did not mention through this video that you also should keep in mind, but it's very easy to miss, were initially mentioned in these series of videos regarding mediation. Mediation is part of an administrative process, which is the stepping stone to what you can choose to do within the transition of taking it to Supreme Court or not. You can always skip mediation. And where a lot of people fail with mediation, and let me repeat that again, you can always skip mediation if you choose with mandamus or not. But what a lot of people fail to realize with mediation is it is not enforceable unless both parties agree to it. And we went over it in those series of videos. So I highly implore you to watch those, because it is highly correlated to these videos related to mandamus and administrative process. The question is, if mediation is governed by state law, which it is, and both parties have to agree to the third party that will be acting as the court of law or the mediator to settle the matter, which both parties has to, then how do both parties consent to it? You use the operation of law, the enforcement of a process called a writ, called mandamus. Within the mandamus, there are three particular steps to it. One is alternative, preemptory, and continuing, which I will explain. And it clarifies the purpose of first notice, second notice, and third notice. And within those, if you've ever taken a look at most people's administrative process or laid eyes in the principles or the spirit of what they intend to express within it, and I've seen hundreds of it, you will realize they all fail to put the mediation clause in it towards the end. People just basically put a bunch of stuff, say, okay, this is the law, then say, respond to Valentine's, 3rd edition. Page 2448, spiritual, pertaining to the soul rather than the physical body of man. The higher as distinguished and is separate from the material or carnal nature of man. Its carnal nature is the impulse, the animal portion of things, the lower essence of things, where men only have a strict sense of, is it I screw you over or you screw me over? Is it I get you first or you get me first? Either I pretend, no different than a prey plays dead in front of the predator, or no different than a cat tries to appear big when it's really small, or other animals make certain sounds, certain motions to appear menacing. Carnal nature, the same exists in humans who are faking the funk. Spiritual, pertaining to the soul rather than the physical body of man. The higher as distinguished from the material or carnal nature of man. The relation between man and God. This term God is just a High German word for evoking something. In modern English, most refer to it in their minds as some divine higher entity. As the word is used to define, the word means spiritual, is used to define hopes and fears which may be held out to a person charged with crime. Once more, I would like to remind you that this is a law dictionary we're referring to here. They are connecting the incorporeal with the corporeal, because laws deals with the explanation of how humans are to be civilized and organized, and the interpretation of things that are substantive to humans in form of commandments or injunctions. The operation, aka the process, aka the legality of things. It is taking that substance, that higher portion of what we are, relative to some divinity, which in modern English we refer to as God. It is taking that and it is correlating it to what we generally know relating to laws and legal things, such as crime. When something is done contrary to what is accepted in society, that damage one man or woman or the public at large, that is generally considered a crime. And one of the main reasons why you will find crimes occur, whether it be knowingly or not, is due to man's carnal nature. Spiritual, as the word is used to define hopes and fears, which are the most dominant attributes in humans. Fear. Most behave confidently, most talk, laugh, wake up every day out of fear. The one who goes to work every day does so not because they necessarily love it, but because of the fear of homelessness, because of the fear of lack of financial stability. The one who willingly commits a crime probably doesn't do it because he or she loves doing it. It's probably because that's the only way they have been conditioned, based on some socioeconomic circumstance which stunt their mental growth or awareness of the world. Therefore, the only way they know how to get by is to commit crime, carnal nature. But deep down in them, there's some element of fear, so long as there's something in them, such as a conscience, that knows right from wrong. We're not speaking about people who are just out of it. We're not speaking about those who are ill but are still walking, not necessarily laying in bed in a hospital designated as being ill. We're speaking about those who still have it up there a little bit, but nonetheless engages in things. Fear is a constant attribute in humans. Even a tortfeasor, when and as they are engaging in tort towards you, there's fear in them, potential of repercussion. They don't know what you know. They don't know who you know. They don't know how what they've done in the past might catch up to them, albeit their carnal nature also make them behave like they're bigger than what they are. Because as long as they fake the funk, at least in the mind of most people, they think they can get away with it because they've done it ever so often. And after all, in their mind, they've accepted that's what all humans do. Everyone just fakes the funk. So it's impossible that this man, speaking of subject matter in this manner, knows how to bring recourse or enforce said right or secure said right, as it's always mentioned in the verbiage of every Bill of Right or Declaration of Right, where it says to be secured in persons, papers, in effect, so and so. Fear comes in many different forms on both ends. Spiritual is used to define hopes and fear, which may be held out to a person charged with crime when a confession is sought. It has been held to mean that which pertains to the soul or higher endowment of the mind. The higher endowment of the mind and the quality and refinement of your soul has a lot to do with your emotional intelligence and your ability to use basic logic in its relation to the Spirit of God, the Holy Spirit, They qualify what they mean by spirit. Spirit, as we at this point ought to at least know, refers to the breath, the words, like that which you are listening to, that which is consecrated into words, and that which is consecrated on these screens that you're reading in this law dictionary of God. Remember, this God refers to that which is higher in relation to man. The Holy Spirit, now it's speaking about something far divine beyond the mundane, and that which pertains to our holy religion. In other words, wherever you go at law, at equity, with the left brain intellectual things, spiritual things are not separated, ever separated from it. The spiritual nature of man will be his higher self. This term, quote, higher self, is what you will find most so-called woke people use. You'll find it used generally amongst those who are true to their craft in the esoteric realm or spiritual related matters. Everyone uses it, those who are true to it and the charlatans. But nonetheless, it is reaffirmed in the law dictionary that even if the charlatans use it, this term higher self is still substantively valid, and it is not far-fetched from law-related matters, not the carnal. Guess what that is derived from? From a Mississippi case law, Johnson versus State. The days of being left alone are gone for the normal man or woman. You have no choice but to be above what is generally considered the norm in the Western world. In the said world, the norm is equivalent to misinformation, fear, and ignorance. I think the fear portion is self-explanatory. You can look at current events, the sequence of events. You can look at misinformation and realize certain things that you see that just makes no sense, yet people are buying into it. But see, the third portion, which is the ignorant part, is a bit hard to really see. What most people would generally consider ignorant is actually misinformation. Those people you will say are ignorant are really not ignorant. They are misinformed. That's been mentioned in this video when it comes to behavioral science and the nudging of humans and their impulse. Most people are functioning based on misinformation because the easiest way is said in the past to control someone, to keep them in a condition of serfdom, is to ascertain that they are convinced that they are free and that they are in control. That is the easiest path to what we call slavery in today's world. And that comes in many different forms by giving semblance of control. That semblance of control is misinformation. But see, that thing called ignorance is actually not created by the tortfeasor. Ignorance is created by you and I through generation after the other. Ignorance is created in two ways. The quickest way to get someone to ignore the truth and to put the mind to sleep is to simply not entertain the truth at all. Parents do this to their children. Their children end up growing up confused, lost. They don't know what the disparage is for. They don't know where the anger is from, but they just know that they are. The parents omit this information transference to the children because the parents themselves have issues that they're dealing with, and the children's pay for the sins of the parent that way. That's the first way ignorance comes into the equation of human society when it comes to what we do to ourselves outside of tortfeasors. The second way ignorance comes into the equation, remember, fear, misinformation, and ignorance are the three ways that people are controlled. The second way that ignorance is introduced is by the deliberate conditioning onto the children in the younger generation who grow up physically but are stunted in the soul, consequently, intellectually and emotionally. Physically, they keep growing, so their physical intelligence keep on moving. But the other substantive part that validates the physical, aka the spiritual portion of them, the core of what they are, the immaterial things, is stunted, partly because of the ignorance of the parents deliberately conditioning the children to ignore certain things because of the parents' deficiency and fear. So we cannot always point fingers to the tortfeasor as to what's wrong. The majority of the problem is in our hands. Of the three ways that people are placed into serfdom, fear, misinformation, and ignorance. Of those three ways, ignorance accounts for about 70% of it. Misinformation and fear would not creep into the soul if ignorance was not predominant. And that ignorance is in our hands. A very small portion of ignorance that has occurred where people have turned a blind eye when it comes to enforcing this thing called right is a remedy that comes in form of a writ. Also within Valentine's third edition, that writ is called Mandamus. Mandamus, a command by order or writ. What is a writ? Now we have no choice but to look at what a writ is, because a mandamus is a type of writ. Writ is a process. Many ever so often speak of process this, process that. According to 42 American jurisprudence, subsection 2. A writ is a process. That thing people call administrative process splits into many forms. One of it is through trust, which is private. This is the public portion of administrative process that I'm about to speak of in this video. The video was done about 2 years ago on YouTube page regarding notary, protest, and administrative process. Know without a doubt this video ties with those videos, because a writ of mandamus is done through notary protest. And within the definition of what a mandamus is, a process, aka administrative process, aka notary protest, based on equitable remedy. That's the reason why that administrative process, first notice, second notice, third notice, will be titled. What we did was we notified the Attorney General also, because with counties, if there's any type of discrepancy as to how the complete 58-minute video is on the Patreon page. Take care. Best of luck.